The final steps were a slow, painful count. Each upward movement of a heavy boot was a victory. The air was thin, so incredibly thin. Breathing felt like sucking air through a tiny straw. My lungs burned with the effort, a constant ache that had become a familiar companion over the past weeks. The summit ridge stretched ahead, a narrow path between the sky and the abyss, one foot in front of the other. That was the only thought, the only command my tired body could obey. The world had shrunk to this single focused task: reach the top. Everything else, all the pain, all the doubt, was pushed aside for these last desperate moments. Then there were no more steps to take upwards. I stood still. The ground beneath my feet was the highest point on earth. I looked around slowly, trying to take it all in. The view was breathtaking, a word that suddenly felt too small, too ordinary for what lay before me. Jagged peaks like giant white teeth pierced the sky in every direction. They stretched out below, an endless ocean of rock and ice. Clouds swirled far beneath like a soft white carpet covering the lower world. The silence was profound, broken only by the whip of the wind and the sound of my own ragged breathing. The colors were intense. The sky above was a deep, dark blue, almost black at the very edge of space. The snow all around was a brilliant, blinding white. It reflected the sun with a fierce intensity. I felt so small, a tiny speck on this massive mountain, yet I was on top of it all, on top of the world. It was hard to believe this moment was real. After so much effort, so much struggle, I was finally here, the place I had dreamed about for so many years. It was a humbling experience to stand where so few had stood before. The curve of the earth was visible, a gentle arc against the darkness of space. It made me feel the true scale of our planet. The other great mountains of the Himalayas looked like foothills from this vantage point. Makalu, Lhotse, Choyu names that once sounded so mighty now seemed diminished from this supreme height. The wind cut through my layers of clothing, a constant reminder of the harshness of this environment. But even the cold could not dampen the sense of awe. This view was a reward beyond measure. It felt like seeing the blueprint of creation itself. A smile, slow and wide, spread across my face, cracking the ice on my beard. I took a deep breath, or as deep as the thin air would allow. The cold air filled my aching lungs, but it felt different now. It felt like the air of victory. A wave of happiness, pure and strong, washed over me. It was a feeling so intense it almost buckled my knees, not the noisy, boisterous kind of joy. This was something quieter, deeper, a profound sense of contentment that settled deep within my bones. It was a feeling I knew I would never forget. This happiness was overwhelming. It pushed away the exhaustion. It silenced the lingering fear. For these precious moments, there was only joy. Tears welled in my eyes, freezing quickly on my cheeks. They were tears of relief, tears of gratitude, tears of an emotion too big for words. I had made it. Against the odds, against the mountain's formidable defenses, I had reached this sacred place. The struggle had been immense, the toll on my body severe, but standing here, all of that faded into the background. The raw, unfiltered happiness was all that mattered. All the pain, the weeks of acclimatization, the dangerous icefalls, the sleepless nights in freezing tents. It all seemed like a distant dream. Only this moment felt real, this incredible, overpowering feeling of accomplishment. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders, a weight I hadn't even fully realized I was carrying until it was gone. The happiness was a clean, bright flame burning inside me, warming me from the inside out, despite the bitter cold that surrounded me on all sides. It was a simple, unadulterated joy. It wasn't just relief at having survived the ordeal, it was more than that. It was a profound sense of achievement. A quiet, personal celebration happening within the confines of my oxygen mask and layers of down. I had set a goal, a massive, seemingly impossible goal, and I had reached it. The happiness came from knowing I had pushed myself to the very limit of my endurance, and then found something more. It was the joy of discovery. Discovering what I was capable of. This feeling was worth every single hardship endured on the long path to this point. As I stood there on the wind-scoured summit, thoughts began to drift back through my mind, like snowflakes carried on the breeze. The long journey to get here unfolded in my memory, the endless hours of training pushing my body harder than ever before. The meticulous planning, the maps spread out on the table, tracing routes with a hopeful finger. The gnawing doubts that sometimes crept in during the darkest hours of the night, whispering that this dream was too big, too dangerous. But then the determination would resurface, stronger than before. Memories of loved ones surfaced, their faces clear in my mind's eye. I thought of their support, their unwavering belief in me, even when my own wavered. I remembered the worry in their eyes when I said goodbye. The promises I'd made to be careful, to come back safe. Their encouragement had been a silent source of strength throughout the expedition. Knowing they were waiting, hoping, praying had given me an extra push on the hardest days. This summit was for them too, in a way, a testament to their patience and their love. The faces of my fellow climbers appeared in my thoughts, those who had shared this journey, this incredible, arduous path. Some had turned back, defeated by the altitude or the weather. Their disappointment was a shared burden. Others had pushed on, offering a helping hand, a word of encouragement when it was most needed. We had faced the dangers together, the shared hardship, forging a bond that words could not easily describe. These were the people who truly understood what it took to stand on this spot. Their camaraderie was a vital part of this success. Small, vivid moments from the climb flickered through my memory. A shared laugh over a lukewarm cup of tea in a freezing tent, the breathtaking beauty of a sunset painting the high peaks in hues of orange and purple. The terrifying rumble of a distant avalanche, a stark reminder of the mountain's power. The simple act of placing one foot carefully in front of the other on a knife-edge ridge. These tiny fragments, these snapshots of the ascent, all came together now, forming the rich tapestry of the experience. Each one was a precious thread in the story of reaching the top. This was so much more than just a climb. It was more than just ticking an item off a list. Standing on the summit of Everest brought a sense of deep, quiet fulfillment. A dream held for so long had finally been realized. It was a validation of all the effort, all the sacrifice, all the risks taken. The feeling was not one of arrogance, but of profound gratitude. Gratitude for the strength to endure, for the opportunity to be here, for the sheer beauty of the world laid out before me. This moment filled a space within me that I hadn't known was empty. The world looked different from this vantage point, and I knew it would continue to look different even after I descended. Perspectives had undeniably shifted. Problems that once seemed large now felt manageable. The mountain had taught me about resilience, about patience, about the importance of perseverance. It had shown me the depths of my own inner strength, a reserve I hadn't fully understood I possessed until I was tested to my absolute limits. This climb had stripped away the non-essential, leaving a clearer view of what truly mattered in life. This memory, this single, perfect moment on the summit would become a beacon. I knew it would. In future times of difficulty or doubt, I could look back on this. I could remember the feeling of standing on top of the world, having overcome immense challenges. It would serve as a constant reminder of what is possible when you set your mind to something, when you refuse to give up. It would be a source of courage, a wellspring of inspiration to draw upon for the rest of my days. The mountain had given me a gift that would last a lifetime. Life would, of course, go on. There would be new challenges, new routines, a return to the everyday world far below, but a part of Everest, a part of this experience, it would always remain within me. It would be a quiet knowledge, a silent confidence. The joy of this achievement would not fade quickly. It would settle into a lasting sense of peace and accomplishment. The mountain had been climbed, but in a way, a summit had also been reached within myself, and that perhaps was the greatest triumph of all.